Monday, December 21st, 2020 at 6:31 p.m. The East Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees meeting. Ms. Turner, please call the roll.
Mr. Rashid,
Present.
Mr. Mays. Dr. Harris,
Present.
Ms. Shahid,
Here.
Ms. Sharpley,
Present.
Mr. Silvera,
Here.
Ms. McDonald.
Present.
We have 6 present.
Thank you. Number 4, we move forward. Next item on our agenda is list of reports and same.
We gonna do it? We can sing it back down fine. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let every sound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as provided.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Chairman, please call the roll.
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays. Yes. Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 7 yeses.
7 yes, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is let the record reflect that board member Otis Mays is now present. Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from September 21st, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of the minutes from September 21st, 2020.
I'll second that motion.
It's been adopted, second by Mr. Mays. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Chairman, the minutes of these minutes reflect that there was a discussion in reference to when you receive grants, what have you, and there was a discussion in reference to passing the resolution before we received the grant. And it was my understanding that there was a letter of the grant would be coming, before coming. However, you do not pass a resolution or a resolution before you receive it. After you receive the grant, you pass the resolution, and if there aren't any specification as to what the grant can be spent on, then the board has the opportunity of making those recommendations. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention in those minutes, because I discussed it at that time, that you cannot accept something you have not received. And so hopefully, from this point forward, we'll wait until we get the grant, and then we will accept the grant or reject the grant. Depends, you have that option.
Let me let the record reflect Mr. Mays' comments on it, although from my perspective and talking with the director and administration, I think the purpose of the resolution was to clarify the conditions of the grant prior to the acceptance of it, because once the grant writer or the proposal person who was considering giving us a grant will most likely have certain conditions attached to that grant. And the purpose of the resolution is to say that we acknowledge what it is you are asking us to do with this money, and that we will perform in accordance to your request. And that's why the resolution was passed, so that once we report back to, that we have passed that resolution to the grant, the person that wants to give us the grant, we reported back that yes, we will accept the conditions and terms of the grant. Then they will, in fact, at that point, give us whatever the money is or whatever the grant may consist of. To try to do it in reverse, I think, is most companies. Maybe I can let the director chime in on this, but in most cases, they want to know. We have to pass something saying that we are going to perform to the conditions that they've asked us for before we accept the grant. Is that normally how
No.
we do this, and is that the purpose of why we passed the resolution?
Normally, we pass the resolution basically as communicating to the board that we apply for the grant, and these are the stipulations that we should meet, which gives us, the board, the accountability to make sure that we're meeting the goals in the grants and we're meeting the budget and the final report.
And it also authorizes acceptance of it.
Excuse me, sir?
It also authorizes acceptance,
Authorizes-
because from an auditing point of view, if we only meet once a month, so if we get a grant proceeds received during the middle of that period, from a legal point of view, from an auditing point of view, you can't deposit that money and apply that money until the board votes on that money. So because we don't meet on a regular basis, that's one of the reasons why we do that. So
Madam
that we
Chairman,
can have some flexibility from an auditing and accounting point of view in terms of how that has to be
Mr. Chairman.
managed.
Okay, Ms. McDonald first, then I'll go back to Mr. Mays.
Okay, I hear two different things with the grants. And perhaps, and I don't know because, I'm relatively new here on the board, but should there possibly be two resolutions? Because it seems like there's two processes. One is saying that you are acknowledging what should be done with the grants. The grant itself has not necessarily been received. Then upon receiving the grant, another resolution asks to, now we physically have the money, and this is how we're moving forward.
Great question.
I agree with part of what you just said. That is correct. Upon applying, you apply for a grant. Once they accept and say that we're going to award you this grant that you applied for, and they may send you a letter in reference that we recognize that you have applied for a grant and we are going to award this grant. You cannot pass a resolution at that point. The resolution should come after you receive the grant. Most grants, some grants, does not stipulate how the money is to be spent and what is to be spent on. Sometimes they just award you the grant. And then it's incumbent upon the board to put the stipulations as to how that money is to be spent and what is to be spent on, with the recommendation of the director as well. So there's only required one resolution, and that is the resolution: we received the grant, we appreciate that you acknowledge us and awarded us this grant. And if, as I said before, if there aren't any stipulations on the grant, because a lot of grants does stipulate as to how it is to be spent and what is to be spent on. So, but you don't put the horse before put the cart before the horse. And I agree with what you just said. That's the way it's supposed to operate. And that's the way it will operate from all of the entities that I've been a part of, and with the federal government, working with the government as well. That is the way the grants and things are received.
Is there any further discussion? Mr. Cockfield?
Yes, in terms of how we record our finances or our revenue budget, we're given at the beginning of the year, we're given a certificate of estimated resources. And I say, I guess in this case, the operative word is estimated, because the county indicates to us how much money we're going to be receiving in the way of PLF revenue as well as property tax revenue. We in turn give them an estimate of what we intend to receive in the way of fines, fees, grants, and any other sources of income. So for the purposes of grants, the fact that we receive a letter notifying us that we have received the money, or their board has authorized the disbursement of funds to us, that gives us the authorization to amend our certificate. So that recognition is in fact evidence that we do intend to receive that money. Even though we have not physically received it, we can adjust our budget based on the letter that we have received.
Ms. McDonald?
I still hear of 2 or 3 different things going on with the same. I think everybody's on the same page. I think it's just, like you said, there's different ways, because I deal with grants too. And there are some grants that will be specific. You're going to spend $5,000 on office furniture, $200 on something else,
Correct.
and that has to be directly spent like that.
That's
Then
correct.
you have other grants that are pretty much, here's $50,000, and as long as, you spend it the way that you want to spend it. Now, as Mr. Cockfield said, with the way that it goes as far as when we agree that we're going to take it, that's pretty much saying that we have the grant, this is going to be the monies, and this is how we're going to
We cannot, not to interrupt you, but we cannot vote the revenue
Right.
until the check is
until the
received.
check is received.
But
So,
we can certainly recognize the fact that we are going to be receiving.
and that's back to 2 things, because from Mr. Mays, Vice President Mays' standpoint, is that he's saying that, okay, we physically still don't necessarily have the grant. Is that what you're saying? So in one hand, how we're doing the budget, if we agree to it, we're saying we have the grant because we're going to be accepting that grant.
Yeah.
But
We can adjust our
if
budget
it's,
based on
but if the grant is not physically in the account in there, he's saying that it's 2 different things, and that's where the problem is.
So, yes, Mr.
I want to bring some clarification. Some grants, we may receive the check as the acknowledgement, and we will bring that to the board. The board will vote on a resolution for us to accept that. Then there's times we will receive an acknowledgement, a letter, that we will be getting that grant. However, we have not received the money, the funds. So we need to make a decision. Do we bring that letter, that acknowledgement that we will be receiving these funds? Or do we wait until we actually receive the funds, then we vote on a resolution to move those funds to our appropriation?
Mr. Chairman, let me respond to that.
Listen to what you just said.
What?
What I think,
I know.
excuse me, sir, what I think is that we have to look at each individual grant and then adopt the process as the grant has been presented to the board to deal with, rather than to try to use one way to blanket all of them because they may be different in their substance. So in that case, I think that we should be in a position to say each grant should be treated individually rather than to have a blanket process.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, what Mr. Laddick the director is saying. If you receive a letter of acknowledgement that we will be receiving the grant, then you notify the board that we do have a letter that we will be receiving a grant. But that does not, just because you got the letter and you don't have the funds, we cannot act on something that we do not have. That's just only acknowledging, notifying us that we will be receiving the grant. So when the grant comes in, then you notify the board that the grant has arrived. Then we will do the resolution to accepting it and authorizing you to accept it, as well as if it has stipulation as to how it's to be spent, then you would follow those norms in which they have stipulated. Some, as I said before, does not stipulate as to what it to be spent on. Then we have an opportunity to spend it as our needs requires.
And just following up on what you just said, I think that's the issue, because if in fact the grant writer requires that we indeed pass a resolution or agree that we will do A, B, C, and D before they issue the check.
Oh, no, they don't require it.
Point
They
of
don't
order.
require that.
Yes, sir.
I think we're, at this point, we're talking about the minutes of the meeting. That discussion would be more appropriate for Finance Committee. We can make that a part of the agenda for the next meeting, and we invite Mr. Mays to participate in that meeting, and we can have that discussion at our Finance Committee meeting and not as a part of this particular discussion in terms of approval of the minutes.
Agreed, agreed. Is there any further discussion so we can move on? Mr. Turner, it's been moved and second, and the discussion has been completed. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
Have 7 yeses.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 19th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of October the 10th, 2020.
I have a
October
statement.
19th.
On page
October-
9, is
oh,
this
I
a
need
mistake
some
or
items.
something?
October the 19th,
Yes,
2020.
ma'am?
Did he move to accept it?
Yes, for
No,
the,
I have a question. On page 9,
No, wait till you, somebody second it, and then you have the discussion.
yeah, I'll go to the discussion after it's been seconded.
okay.
We're talking about the minutes now for October the 19th.
Right.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mays. Did we get a second?
Second by Dr. Harris.
Second by Dr. Harris. It's been moved in second. Ms. Shahid, you have discussion?
Yeah, on page 9 of October 19th, it says Director's Report. Is that a mistake or I'm just reading it wrong? Thank you, Mr. President. September statistics, our library was very busy. We had 1,038 questions.
You said 6? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It was Page 9,
Number 8,
Page 9?
the director's report.
right. It
What
says,
was the question about it? I'm
it
sorry.
said, thank you, Mr. President. The September statistics, our library was very busy. We had 1,038 questions.
Oh,
Is that right?
was that questions or visitors?
Or patrons?
The second line on
No questions.
number 8.
It's questions?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, okay.
The September status, our library was very busy. We had 1,038 questions.
That is correct.
Wow, that's
She was
interesting.
questioning it, and he said that that is a true statement. So it does
Okay.
not need correction. Okay.
Sounds good.
Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Harris.
On page 1, Mr. Rashid, there appears to be repetition, so how do we skip? I think the recording, is printing the minutes with a lot of, what do you call it?
Grammar,
There's a lot of
Yes.
grammatical
Yes,
errors.
because I've seen this throughout, so we
Yes,
need
well,
to find a way to deal with that.
I saw that as well, yeah, especially when I remember what, claimed what I said, and it was two twos and whatever. Yeah,
those things have been brought to the attention.
So we'll
Mr.
work
Chairman,
on it.
The other concerns too, I know we discussed this before. Why are we still printing the agenda word for word, period for period, question mark for question mark?
You mean the minutes?
The minutes, the minutes. And we'll discuss this. I hope that we will, because this is 40-something pages, and the others are 40-something pages. And we've discussed this, the minutes supposed to be just a prerequisite of what happened and took place at these meetings, and not word for word, period for period, question mark for question mark. Because this began to be a book.
So noted.
Yeah, that was something that was discussed,
Yeah, right.
past previous year. Once we have a secretary appointed, we can make a recommendation, and we can work with Mr. Turner, in identifying another third-party person that records this information, or that we go through and edit the minutes as we, proceed through those minutes. So, right now, Mr. Turner, do you want to explain how did we get to this point?
The minutes are recorded, then they're transcribed. From that, from the transcriptions, I go through, listen to the recording as well as go back through the transcriptions to make corrections. Obviously, I can't catch them all because there's, I'm trying to think, I think like 30,000 words or something to that effect in these. So, I do my best to catch the big ones. One of the things is that the system that's used is very difficult to go through and pick out who says what. So it's like you have to have someone that's familiar with the voices that can listen and tell who's saying what. So with that said, with me going through them, as well as the various spell checkers and grammatical checkers, we do our best. It's a lot to go through, but there are going to be some mistakes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think we've discussed this ad nauseum, and there is no perfect solution to this just based on what they are, because the minutes are an accurate reflection as to what took place here. And to try to condense it, it puts us in a situation where somebody could say, well, wait a minute, you're censoring me. I said this and you don't have it, blah, blah, and we went through this over and over and over. So I have to, from my point of view, say that I think we made the best out of the situation by coming up with what we have. And if we keep our meetings shorter, maybe it'll be less words on the page. So is there any further discussion?
I would
Yes,
like
sir,
to add
Mr. Turner.
one more piece. The minutes do come in very, they're very instrumental, and they help us quite a bit when we do the audits. I know they leaned on them quite a bit at the last audit that we had. So
Really? About that. Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Turner, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shaheed,
yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
That's 7 yes.
7 yeses, and minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is the President's report. I'll keep it short. And first of all, I wanted to say thank you to all the board members for electing me as president of the board again. I also want to congratulate Mr. Mays, because you weren't here, but you were in fact elected as vice president for the coming year 2021.
Thank you, and
Clarification,
thank you.
It was a nomination, not election.
A nomination, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Thank you, sir. The office of secretary, well, there was a tie, and maybe Mr. Severi, you can explain to the entire board how the process works.
Yeah, nominating committee, yeah.
I keep saying,
When we come up for the nominating
I'm sorry?
The nominating committee is on the
Oh, it's on the
agenda, so,
agenda
so
further
we'll
down?
discuss it, yeah, then.
Okay, well, I'll skip to that. I also want to welcome our new board members, and I look forward to working together with you and the collective board for the benefit of the libraries and the citizens of East Cleveland. This year, we faced many unexpected challenges, and those challenges have forced us to take on new priorities much different than what we had hoped and planned at the beginning of 2020. I want to acknowledge the director and his staff for leading us through a very difficult year. Thank you for all of your hard work and commitment to our institution. I wanted to keep this short, so I'd just like to put forward the following goals to the board for discussion, and, maybe we have a meeting among our board at some point in the near future to solidify exactly what our goals are going to be. But three that I thought of offhand is to launch a quality East Cleveland Public Library internet channel that could operate on a 24-hour basis, supported by a character generator, that when we are not on live or showing any of our pre-recorded events, it will give a community calendar that will constantly update the citizens or people who look into the channel as the activities that are going on around the city of East Cleveland, especially as we continue to move towards this new year, which is going to include an election for our public officials. I wanted to look at one of the goals as being to acquire the land behind the library for future expansion and make that a goal of our board to make sure that we execute all necessary legal, whatever we have to do in order to ensure that we secure that land by the end of 2021. And the third thing that I had on my list is an in-depth feasibility study on the operation of the East Cleveland Community Theater. It's for something for us to look into during the year of 2021. I want to share my goals, and I also want us to collectively come up with goals that we decide that these are the things that we want to pursue in addition to our current responsibilities in terms of managing the library. So I would just want to keep it short. That was my themes. These goals, in addition to others that we may decide upon, should be the focus of the board, as well as our current operational duties. I'd like to set up that virtual meeting as soon as we can to discuss this and solidify what those goals will be. And that concludes my report. Next item on the agenda is communications. Mr. Jordan.
There are no communications.
There are no communications. We can move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the fiscal officer's end of year report. Mr. Cockfield, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Trustee. I was told I can manipulate this from back here. Okay, the purpose of this report is basically to summarize the year's activity. Just as a caveat, most of this was prepared during the early part of December and does not necessarily reflect year-end balances that will obviously be presented to the board in January. So some of these are the estimates, if you will. The revenue numbers are fairly accurate. The expenditures are not as accurate, and the ending balances obviously would not be as accurate either. But they're fairly close, and I just want to give everybody a heads up that the final numbers will be presented to the board in January, which will give everyone an accurate picture of how we've done. So, oh boy, I can't talk. Well, I got notes. I can see here. The East Cleveland Library is a public library serving the East Cleveland community. This presentation provides an overview of our financial performance for the year 2020. And needless to say, all information presented is available to the public. In comparison to last year, this year's numbers are on the far right. Last year's numbers are to the left. As you can see, we began 2019 with fund balances. These are all general fund numbers, by the way. We started 2019 with fund balances of $486,219. We started this year with fund balances of $676,133. In comparison to our appropriations were fairly fairly constant from one year to the next. Revenue and support, as you can see, was higher last year than it was, or than it is this year. Total expenditures are lower this year than last year, and consequently, our fund balance has increased significantly from last year to this year. I can say, based on where we stand in December of this year, we're going to be close to having $1 million in fund balances by 12/31. So we're going to be carrying some nice balances into 2021, which not only gives us a good operating cushion, but also gives the administration and the board an opportunity to do some strategic planning, if you will. So I look forward to 2021, certainly given the fact that we do have a fairly good increase in our fund balances coming out this year. Just to kind of go through some fiscal highlights, one of the things that we've had an opportunity to do is to right-size our expenditures to operations. Given the impact on operations by COVID-19, the administration and the administrative team have done an excellent job in bringing our expenditures down to a point where we're able to conduct the business of the library and at the same time set aside some money, if you will. The second point is that we returned to what's called the UAN, our Uniform Accounting Network, for the two new board members who were operating with a different accounting system in 2018 and 2019, or actually 2019, and made the switch back to the accounting system that we were using. So the fact that we switched back has given us the opportunity for clean financial reporting and has significantly reduced our cost of financial reporting. We found ourselves spending a lot of time trying to make the system work. And so we were spending more time just performing tech support as opposed to actually crunching numbers. The third thing I wanted to point out is we received a report in 2020 of a clean audit. And this is actually the opinion out of the audit report. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects of cash balances, receipts, and disbursements by fund type, and related notes of the East Cleveland Public Library, Cuyahoga County, as of December 31, 2019 and 2018. So this is a clean opinion, which we received in 2020. They actually issued the report in 2020, and this, in fact, is the opinion. Moving on, we completed what was called our PACE project. This is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program that the library participated in. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. The PACE program, which was the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, which we participated in, and basically it was a program that allowed the library to leverage our energy savings projects against future expenses. So the money that we were anticipating saving from energy saving projects would in fact pay off the money that we were given to perform the renovations. So the most significant thing that we did was install a brand new boiler system, which I understand is operating fairly well now. And so the cost of that system spread out over 15 years was some number, and the energy savings that would be generated from not only from the boiler system, but as well as from the lights that we also had retrofitted. Those two projects would in fact pay for the cost of the renovation, would pay for the cost of the loan of the financing over 15 years. I hope everybody understood that. Yes.
It's now time to into our energy bills in terms of light, gas?
Well, what I intend to do, excellent question, what I intend to do is provide the board with a summary of the project in January, once all the final numbers are compiled. So I'll be able to present comparisons between what we spent in electrical costs in 2018 or 2019 versus what we spent this year. And quite frankly, that's our greatest savings at this point. I think that for the purposes of our boiler, one of the things that we're not going to be involved in is continual maintenance costs, which obviously we were spending quite a lot on. So that in and of itself is a cost savings, but what I intend to do is to come back to the board in next month and give a more exact summary of the project itself.
Good, thank you very much, because as you know, I had my issues when we entered into this loan specifically tied to the forecasted numbers that we were getting about the energy savings, and I'll wait until we get the numbers to actually really have worked in my head as to, but the cost of the financing in itself for the improvements that we needed to do is justification alone, I think, for what we spent and what we had to do, because ultimately we would have had to replace those boilers anyway. But I'm looking forward to the report. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
I agree, and it certainly is a cash flow issue because the library just didn't have $250,000 to invest in the new boiler system. And,
Exactly.
Certainly this type of financing allowed us to spread those costs over 15 years.
Question.
Yes.
Mr. Cotfield, in all respect, I understand the boiler, maybe you can get a more accurate reading as to the cost factor involved here. But I don't think that you can get a true picture of the electrical and stuff of that nature because of the fact that the library has been closed for a while and it's not totally fully operating at this point. So would you not agree, or would you agree that what the figures that you're getting now would not be totally accurate because of the fact of those circumstances?
Yeah, I think it's certainly reasonable to assume that under normal operating conditions we would have greater electrical use, but savings are savings, and I think that it's certainly appropriate to point out what we spent in 2019 as opposed to what we spent in 2020, and a dollar saved is a dollar saved. I can certainly appreciate what you're saying, though. Yes. Okay. Going on, we received grants primarily related to the COVID-19, one for $25,000 and one for $50,000. And this kind of brings us to how we receive our money. As you can see by the orange section of the pie, approximately 57% of our money is received from the PLF. The library receives, out of the county distribution, the library gets a 2.59% slice of that money, which amounts to about $1,300,000 every year. And that, coupled with our property tax revenue, which, as you can see, represents 33% of the revenue, that coupled with that and the intergovernmental fines and fees, and then interest and other sources of income, that kind of rounds out the entire pie. Obviously, the two largest slices are property taxes and PLF revenue. And what are we spending on? Well, going from left to right, we have general overhead and administration, which represents about 33% of our budget. Going down the pie, facilities operation and maintenance is about 18%, information services 17%, collection, development, and processing roughly 7.5%, public services and programs roughly 20.5%, and capital outlay, which is
That 2% included the purchase of equipment such as this?
Yes, yes, this all came out of the general fund budget. These are historical comparisons which are fairly descriptive. They're not as clear as they might, maybe they can be, but on the left-hand side, the bars that you see represent revenues. The second set of bars represent our expenses, and the final set of bars represent fund balances. I'd like to kind of point out to you that middle set of bars, if you can see, notice the last 4 bars are dropping, which represent less money that we're spending. And the fact that in the first set of bars, our revenue is fairly constant. The second set of bars is showing a decline in revenue over the last 4 years or so. And then in the last section, you can see our fund balances are increasing. So it's constant revenue, reduction in expenses represent increased fund balances.
Beautiful picture.
And going forward, we want to maintain the continued implementation of cost savings measures, continue to right-size operation to the new levels of activity, fund programs and projects that address the needs of the community and accommodate new service models, and needless to say, seek grants and proposals. Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I move for the adoption of the fiscal officer's report.
can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Turner, please call the roll.
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
I have 7 yes.
7 yes, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the director's year-end report. Mr. Laverne.
Ooh.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees for your support, and also for your leadership, and also keeping us going in this difficult year that we're about to end. So this is our 2020 year in review, and this is the board. I'd like to thank Akeem Rashid, President, Bruce Mays, Vice President, Pamela McLaren, Secretary, Jared Turner, Carol Shahid, Dr. Marion Harris, and Joe Silvera for a very good job this year. Also, I'd like to welcome Sheila Sharpley, Cassandra McDonald, our new board members. Moving forward, we look forward to working with you all. And that's our board president, Dr. Eagle. This is the work that the board did in a pandemic, with our committee meetings and with our meetings, regular meetings. We had 32 scheduled meetings, 24 of those were virtual meetings, 192 patrons in attendance. We passed 27 resolutions. So you all need to give yourself a hand for what you did this year. So the next slide I'm going to go through represents some of the resolutions that were passed to help our library move forward.
Mr. Director, it looks like we had 192 people in our virtual meetings attending.
That's the information I received from Mr. Turner, that we counted when they either log in or when they call in.
Wow.
Okay.
That's amazing.
It's more than we had in person. So, we'd also like to thank the work of the committees, Personnel Committee, Pam McLaren, Carol Shahid, Buildings and Grounds, Mr. O'Mays, Joe Silvera, Strategic Planning, Dr. Marion Harris, Terry Turner, Joe Silvera, Library Services, Carol Shahid, Dr. Marion Harris, Finance, Tara Turner, and Joseph. As you see, you guys did a lot of work this year, so give yourselves a hand again. With that, as a token of my appreciation to the board, so we have nice gifts for you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize our partners for 2020, Cleveland Foundation, the digitization project of our African American artifacts, Ohio Arts Council to support our Spring Arts Festival, which we had to postpone, but we're looking to repurpose some of those funds into our buildings fund to do some upgrades in the building. We have not received acknowledgement yet around those funds. Ohio Library Council in regards to our bathroom upgrades and PCs for people and getting the devices in the hands of the family. So, United Black Fund, we had to shut down our chess program. They help support that. The Ryan Berger Foundation helps support our outreach to our seniors. Of course, the Friends of the East Cleveland Public Library that supported our Summer Reading Club and our Halloween program. We would also like to thank this year, during the pandemic, we had to reach out to Matthew Ministries 25 for giveaways, which we will be having one this Wednesday. Under the tables, there's a box of a sample of what our patrons will receive. So we distributed over 65 pallets worth of free household supplies to the community due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So there's a picture of our staff outdoors in the summer, giving out boxes as cars roll through the library. And of course, we'll have our winter gear as we do this on Wednesday. Our response to the COVID-19 pandemic response to some of the resolutions that were passed, we received a grant from the Cleveland Foundation, a grant from the Ohio Library Council that gave us touchless restroom updates, adjusted library hours, purchased PPE, which is the plexiglass that you see, also that's throughout the library. During the time we were shut down, staff had the opportunity to upgrade their skills. However, we were in the middle of census as well. Our staff made robocalls to 3,000 residents in the city of East Cleveland during that time. We were able to upgrade our HVAC filters. We upgraded our virtual programming and received recognition from Ohio Library Council and also Matthew 25 Ministries distribution to the community. This is one of the new services that we introduced. We were one of the first libraries to get a subscription to Tumble Books. This is a virtual book collection for grades K through 6. They can access through eastclevelandpubliclibrary.org. All of our school-age K through 6 students have over 1,100 online titles that they can dial into on their Chromebooks from home. So we are working closely with the teachers to really push this initiative. We were able to get a 2-year subscription at a discount, so we will be pushing Tumble Books. We were also able to upgrade our hotspots collection. We have a total of 120 hotspots, and thanks to the Cleveland Foundation for their support. They stay in rotation. Circulation is amazing. In a community that is very digitally challenged, this is a great resource. This is a new service that we have. In addition to patrons able to email us and we print the materials for them, you can text the library to get answers about copying, printing, hotspots, our hours, information about library cards, lost cards, and returns. So this is a new service.
That's a great service.
So thanks to our technology team for introducing this. We were also able to update our air conditioning unit and replacing it. So those funds from the Cleveland Foundation were repurposed for this unit, these units here. And there are the pictures.
Just a quick comment. Once we get back to some sense of normalcy, would it be appropriate for us to give some sort of special thanks to the Cleveland Foundation, who they have really supported us over the years, and I don't know if there's a special way to acknowledge them, or if it's appropriate to just continue doing things the way that you've currently done
do thank every acknowledgement and funds that we receive. We send a thank you letter from the board stating, how we really appreciate those funds. I just start sharing those in communications. Also, through some of the funds, we were able to upgrade the main floor area, removal of shelving in the reference area, teens and local history room, painting of walls in the reference teens and history room. This is the before. This is the after. So the business be able to repurpose and add additional computers in both spaces. So once the COVID pandemic comes down, our patrons will be able to have access to computer services in those spaces, appropriately social distancing as well. And those spaces have plexiglass.
And the lighting was also changed, is that correct?
Lighting as well.
Yeah.
This is some of the things that we did before we shut down. Performance in the concert area, Gregory's concert area. We had a performance, the Hub Grub tribute to Penny Brown and Barry White. We had over 250 patrons. It was packed. Willie Gerald, you were there? Sharp, you did this one? This happened in January. We also participated with Starlight Baptist Church and the Human Trafficking Ritual. We also partnered with them around our East Cleveland Martin Luther King Day as well. So that was a very nice partnership. It was well received by the community. In January as well, as you see, we had a lot of programming going into the new year. We had a recruitment event for not only Ohio Means Jobs, for the census as well. We had an open mic celebration for Black History Month. It was hosted by Nathaniel Martin, Councilman. We also have a photograph exhibit. This is one of them in this room here. And also by Giorgio Sabino. He took that exhibit down. However, that exhibit was well received by the community as well. It was titled Journey of Resilience and Rebirth. Also, in Black History Month last year, we got the Coach Morris Institute. We had African drumming, which was well received. And Shahid, you were there, that event. And we had the Blacks Museum event, which is very popular in our community. We had over 200 patrons that show up for that event in the Reese on February 22nd. And the last program, the day we had to shut down, the Palaces for the People. This was a celebration of the census, also the Eric Kleinberg book discussion, which was a podcast. We had over 100 listeners participate. It was well received. We had a lot of fun. All the board members were in attendance that day because we had a special meeting afterwards.
That's the only reason we were there, huh?
So we shut down in March. But when we reopened to the community in June, we had the East Cleveland Community Day. It was Charlie Good and the president. We had all the board members in attendance for that event as well. We received a lot of press from the Calling Post. I believe it was the first time the city of East Cleveland was highlighted in anything in the Calling Post.
Positively, anyway.
That was like also, it was a positive story. We also started our streaming program. We did our stamp, the first discussion around stamp. We streamed our Facebook, YouTube channels. They took a giant leap. We also co-sponsored the Great Lakes African American Writers Conference, where not only we had visitors from every state virtually, but we had a country in Africa of students that participated. So that was awesome. And this is some of the virtual programming that we did. Some of the concerts that we had in our archives, the Shawnee Jones Quintet, the Evelyn Wright, Cleveland Jazz Orchestra 2008. When we hosted our virtual programming, we received a call from the Cleveland Foundation where they decided to fund us $31,000 to do virtual programming moving forward until the pandemic ends. So we're going to continue going into our archives and hopefully do some in-person concerts. But I would think, I hope by March March or April that, you know, whatever happens, we have patrons back in the auditorium, we have those concerts, and we can repurpose those funds for in-person concerts. This is just one of the concerts that we review virtually. We tribute to James Brown, the Gents of Jazz. We started to get a lot of followers. Go back to some of the things that we did from January to March, our podcasting, our American Reading, adult open mic, all ages. Some of our virtual programming moving forward that we started in March, Cooking with Miss Green, Scary Stories. We most recently did Oscars to the staff around everyone that participated in the virtual programming, and everybody dressed up and they received awards. So it was a very team building exercise, and everybody had a good time. And this is kind of what we did this summer, our virtual programming, our summer reading club. Imagine Your Story was the thing. We have 45 kids to participate from pre-K up to, you know, a few adults. This is another partnership with Probable Players, virtual programming. And one of the big hits we decided to, we received a lot of calls from a lot of our senior patrons. They were like, when is the library open? We need some programming. You know, what are you going to do? So I teamed up with Ms. Chandler. We had a deal with Robert Johnson Jr. He set up his equipment in the parking lot. And through the month of September, Wednesdays, East Cleveland Public Library was the place to be. So we had so they were very excited. They can't wait till next summer, and I guess we're gonna have to do it again. So the line dancing was a success.
Yeah.
So this is our data.
Did Mrs. Shaheed, did she participate in the dance?
She was out there.
Y'all dancing?
We need you to come from under the bed. So from January until to date, we had 24,000 walk-in for our attendance. We had over 9,000 visitors to our job shop. We had over, a lot of those are repeat patrons as well. As you all can see, job readiness is really big down in this community. We circulated over 44,000 materials, 293 patron hotspots. We signed up 153 card holders. Of course, we made 3,000 calls to community residents around the census. This is our technology, 71 adult programs, 45 teen programs, 63 children. A lot of them were the story times on the virtual program. Through January, we never stopped passing out lunches, 3,721, and we had a total of 2,066 social media followers. Our Halloween program was a success thanks to the Friends of the Library. We will be picking up toys for tots tomorrow to be given out on Wednesday with our Matthew 25 distribution. And everybody has a sample box of what will be given out on Wednesday. And we're looking forward to 2021. We did approve an addendum to our strategic plan where we'll be focusing on our strategic initiatives and some of the goals that the board wants to move forward. But we want to provide a welcoming and safe library environment for library patrons. We want to continue to be innovative and technology, literacy through Afrocentric collections, programming services and partnerships, and sustainable operational innovation, internal and external. So that concludes my report.
I have one recommendation, is that you integrate the report on the website and link and interact it with the donation button. So maybe we can start pulling some donations based upon people seeing what our track record is, how we're approving what we're doing, and that may be a catalyst for people hitting that donation button on the website and donating.
Awesome suggestion.
only comment I have, I think you did well. You had performance in capturing all of this, what activities took place down through the year, and I think you are to be felicitated for a job well done.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the acceptance of the director's year-end report.
Second,
Mary Ann Harris,
second.
Mary Ann Harris.
Oh.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Mr. Chairman, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
Have 7 yeses.
7 yeses, the motion carries. Next on our agenda would be the nominating committee. Mr. Severa?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to acknowledge firstly that Ms. Shahid and Ms. Sheila Sharpley also were members of the nominating committee. We had a meeting this evening at a little after 5. We had 6 ballots returned. Of those 6 ballots, the vote for president was 6 for Mr. Rashid. Vice President, Mr. Mays received 6 votes. Secretary, we have a tie between Ms. Shahid and Dr. Harris of 3 votes each. The nominating committee has recommended to move these votes forward for election in January with the president, vice president being unanimous at this point. We will have an election on the floor for the secretary.
So just to make sure that I understand what you're saying, is that during our first meeting in January, there will be like a runoff election?
A formal election for all the officers, president, vice president, and we do have a runoff for secretary.
Okay. Any additional questions?
I would just like, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to personally thank my fellow board members for your vote, and I appreciate that.
I echo Mr. Mays' thanks to the board members for your support and for your confidence in allowing me to lead our board. And our board is no more than anybody else. We're a team that work together. And I just run the meetings, basically. But thank you so much for your support. I still have a bit of confusion as to what happens in January. There has to be a formal election at that time for each one of the positions.
Yeah, you can basically, the board can accept the recommendation of the nominating committee for president and vice president, but the position of secretary would have to be a formal vote
Okay, and that'll be on our agenda.
on the agenda for January.
And also to be sworn in.
And everybody to be sworn in as well. The officers will be sworn in
Oh, okay.
after that, yep.
That's formal. Okay.
That concludes the nominating committee's report.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I thank the other committee members.
Now, next item on the agenda is Finance Committee. There seems to be 2 resolutions on the agenda for tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee has 2 resolutions. The first resolution is 1202-2020 to accept the permanent appropriations adjustments. You have an attachment, the adjustments that are in question.
What's the resolution again? Number?
1202-220 to accept the permanent appropriations adjustments. I'll read the resolution as whereas East Cleveland Public Library Finance Committee has reviewed proposed appropriation, be resolved the Board of Trustees of East Cleveland Public Library resolved to approve the 2020 permanent appropriation for general fund spending totaling $2,418,133.91. Move for its adoption.
So move to the second.
Second, Mary Ann Harris.
Second, Dr. Harris. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. on page, I guess it would be page 2, I see public service and program. Does this, how many persons, or how many employees, I guess it would ask, my question would be directed to either the finance or either the director. How many persons in this particular 1010, I'm on page 2, 1010, it says public service and program, and it has $341,419.01. Is that how many persons in that figure, or just one person, or what? On page 2, I guess, flip
First
the
page on
page.
the appropriations. At the very top, public service and programs, 110.
Can you identify what's, it's on the second page of,
Right, the way we budget through the appropriations and the particular funds, the 110 fund is always for salaries. It is broken up by departments, and of course, public services, I can't tell you right now how many employees there are unless Mr. Copfield can. But it's all of the frontline staff on the circulation desk, the children's department, the adult room, I believe, and pages. Is that correct, Mr. Copfield?
You are correct, yes.
Okay.
and the other question, well, it still doesn't tell me how many employees there. So its total salary is $481,318.54. But then I question 222, life insurance.
Well, a lot of the employees that work in public services are part-time. So they don't receive or accrue all of the benefits, only partial benefits.
Okay.
So life insurance, what we pay into that fund is basically salary employees or full-time employees.
Full-time employees. We pay roughly $53 a month for life insurance for all the full-time staff.
So the full-time staff has life insurance. Okay.
That's part of our medical package.
And also Medicare, as well as medical, hospital insurance, life insurance, and dental vision insurance. What is AFLAX Insurance? That's the company?
That's our supplemental health insurance. So our primary is medical mutual. We offer supplemental, that's Aflac insurance to our part-time employees.
Okay. Those are the questions I had in reference to that. So I guess that would apply to all of the areas in here, in this resolution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
About the Aflac too. I've always thought of Aflac as a individual type insurance that people buy to protect themselves against, different issues. And I never, Russians had never, I had never understood or heard of the company and Aflac for individual employees. And I'm just curious as to the decision to do that. Was it something that's in most libraries or something that's uncommon to? Yes. Yes,
It's actually more common than what people realize, especially in public.
Pick up
So
a
like,
little, we can't hear
It's
you.
actually more common than what people realize. It's a lot of times they even have representatives to come to the establishment, and employees can sign up at that time. So companies do offer it. They can offer it as part of their package, or a representative can come in and the employee can select it.
Do the employees contribute to this, or is this a direct expense of the library?
Excellent question. As Mr. Latimer pointed out, we provide or we offer Aflac as a supplement to our part-time staff. Full-time staff pays full cost of any supplemental insurance. So the $150 that you see here is what we budgeted for the part-timers, because we do supplement, the cost of their insurance. We do supplement the cost of part-time employees there, they're not entitled to, medical mutual, so we make, Aflac available to them and then supplement a part of that cost, for them.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the part-timers only.
Okay, that answers
Yeah.
my question. Thank you very much.
So they're part-time, how often do they work? You just said they're part-time,
20 hours a week.
20, oh, okay. All right. Okay,
Is
All
there
right.
further questions or discussion?
I just make a point of information for Mr. Mays. If you look in your package, you'll see a personnel report that lists the number of employees we have as far as staff and part-time staff.
all right, thank you. And thank you for answering my questions, because I was confused with all. I thought one person was getting that.
So
For the vote.
you move the resolution,
Yeah.
it's been seconded by Dr. Harris.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion? Mr. Chairman, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
I have 7 yeses.
7 yeses, resolution 120220 passes. Next item on the agenda will be resolution.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
next resolution sponsored by the Finance Committee. Resolution 1203-2020 to accept the 2021 temporary appropriations. Whereas the East Cleveland Finance Committee has reviewed and proposed appropriations, be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the East Cleveland Public Library resolves to approve the 2021 temporary appropriations for spending from all funds of $2,352,293.57. I move for its adoption.
It's been so moved. Can I get a second?
I'll second it for
It's been
discussion.
moved and second. Any discussions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you look at Resolution 12-2-2020, to accept a permanent appropriation
Adjustments.
and
That's adjustments.
Adjustments.
it says permanent adjustment, and then you got Resolution 12-03-2020 to accept 21-21 temporary appropriation.
Yes, that's the temporary appropriation for the first quarter of 2021.
Okay, all right,
And then by the end of the first quarter, we will pass the current appropriations for the balance of the fiscal year.
Okay. So basically, one was for the adjustments that were done in 20. This is for the temporary appropriation for money going into 20. And then this kind of spells out what it is that they anticipate spending it on.
all right, I saw that.
Ms. Cockfield, do you have any other comments you'd like to add about the temporary appropriations?
No, other than the fact that, over the course of the next 3 months, Mr. Latimer and the administrative team is going to be sitting down and actually working through, all of the projects that, are planned for 2021. And in March, or at the March meeting of, next year, we'll be presenting our permanent budget, which we intend will make the adjustments to these numbers and carry us through the end of the year.
All right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald,
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yeses, resolution 120320 passes to accept 2021 temporary appropriations. Next item on the agenda will be the Personnel Committee, the resolution.
Okay. Personnel Committee met December 17, 2020 during a virtual meeting at 3 o'clock p.m. Evaluation forms were reported to be completed and accepted by members of the board. Therefore, I submit Resolution 12-01-2020 to validate the pay rates for the Executive Director and the Physical Officer. I'm going to read it now. Members of the Personnel Committee have met, discussed, and reviewed the following items and recommend approval to the Library Board of Trustees. Resolution number 12-01-2020 to enact salary changes for the Executive Director and Physical Officer. Whereas the East Cleveland Public Library Board met in executive session November 16 to discuss personal matters, and whereas upon the recommendations of the Personnel Committee, the East Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees have voted to enact salary changes for the Executive Director and Physical Officer. Be it resolved, effective with the payroll of 2021, the Executive Director will receive the following: 3% cost of living adjustment, a one-time executive employee bonus of $1,916. Be it resolved, effective with the first payroll of 2021, the Physical Officer will receive the following: 3% of cost of living adjustment, a one-time executive employee bonus of $1,467. Excuse my sinus. Okay.
I'll second
Oh, I move to that we
adopt
accept
the
resolution.
I second.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Mays. Any further discussions on the matter? Mr. Tillman, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rashid,
Yes.
Mr. Mays,
Yay.
Dr. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Shahid,
Yes.
Ms. Sharpley,
Yes.
Mr. Silvera,
Yes.
Ms. McDonald.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yeses, resolution is adopted.
Okay, also discussed at the meeting was the vacation carryover for employees, as well as whether or not employees will be required to have a vaccination for the COVID-19. And I'll direct that on to Mr. Ladder.
Okay. You know, as we all know, that the vaccination is in play. We all have discussions at with all of the libraries and other public entities around what does that mean for public employees, what does that mean for East Cleveland Public Library. At some point, we're going to have to introduce a resolution to make adjustments to our employee handbook, whether we are going to mandate vaccination or we're going to make it voluntary. So right now, we're watching EOC, OSHA, and the CDC to see, what happens with COVID-19. We all know that we are different from most communities in Ohio, and there are only 2 ways to opt out of a mandated vaccination. The language is opting out medical ADA or through Title VII of the Civil Rights Act based on religion. So we will have more discussion around this topic and with the Personnel Committee and with the library's HR team. So, no other comments.
A question, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Vladimir. You're saying that the personnel team will meet to come up with whichever policy they're going to receive. I understand that there are 2 factors that can excuse a person from accepting the vaccine, and you articulated those. So you're going to meet with Ms. Shahid and yourself, with her committee, what have you, on that?
Yes, the HR team, which is Mr. Cooper, Ms. Blood, that's the library's HR team, and the Personnel Committee is Ms. Shahid and Ms. Sharpley. based on the language or what comes down from the state of Ohio, which comes to Ohio Library Council, we will receive their recommendation and bring it to the board.
Okay, all right, so, okay.
Mary Ann Harris, I have a question, and my question is, how will that, decision affect the members of the Board of Trustees?
How, I didn't hear,
Great question.
what was your question? Well, I think we need to take the lead. The
No,
lead
I'm not
is-
taking no vaccine. I'm not taking no vaccine,
Who's taking the lead?
not by no means.
But I'm not saying they took that, well, after so many other folks have taken it, or what have you, and if it doesn't hurt them, I don't know, because I don't like to be,
I don't think so.
I don't know, I have a problem.
I think that, in consideration with this, even though the state is going to be forwarding information, it would be good if we had some type of healthcare, professional to come in to elaborate on the language that we see. I also think that we should look at, the phases that they're in when it comes to the COVID vaccine, phase 1, 2, or 3. Different things like that, because again, the population samples they're kind of all over the place. So we really don't know. But to get an understanding of how the phases go with the clinical trials and different things like that, so that even if you want to opt out or opt in, you have it's a more educational hypothesis as to what you want to do.
That's a great idea. Maybe we should also make sure that that service is provided to our employees as we go through the conversation with them. So I don't know how we can follow up on that if you want to, but I think that's a great suggestion to have some sort of healthcare professional come in. Right now, the data would be currently maybe not be available because we just started, but at some point before the decision is, until the state does anything, I don't think it's a whole lot we can do, but at least we can be aware of what's going on and get feedback from the healthcare professionals as to what the employees, to give them another point of view and to give them some educated information.
Yeah, because we have always been used as guinea pigs.
So based on data, based on what I see, we are the only board and library that's 100% Negro. So we need to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
That's a good point
That's right.
in the state of Ohio. So I just want to share.
You doing this here?
No. Even with the virus back then, and also the AIDS as well. They used us as guinea pigs. All right.
Okay, any further discussion? Ms. Shaheed?
No, that completes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have to have a motion to?
No.
Okay, next item on our agenda would be the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Our Buildings and Grounds met on December the 17th at 1 p.m. In attendance of that meeting was Mr. Rashid Omaze, Mr. Vladimir, Mr. Cockfield, and Mr. Turner. And during our meeting, we spoke in reference of the boiler. The boiler has been replaced, and to my understanding from Mr. Cooper as well, it is serving us well. And I think that if something happened to the larger boiler, the small boiler takes over or is operating now, and in a certain degree falls, I guess help me out here, I think the larger boiler will kick in and start operating. I think that's what
One boiler serves as backup, so far the new installation is working as planned and has no serious hiccups that I'm aware of.
Okay. The bathrooms, I guess some of them are optimal and some are not, will be up and operating by the 7th of, can you remember, of this year, be operating by at the end of this year, or December 31st. That's it, by the end of this year. And that's the, whereas you do not have to touch anything you go in. If you want to wash your hands, the water will automatically come on, as well as flushing the toilets or what have you. It will flush itself. It's my understanding there's a leak in the old portion of the building, and I was under the impression that was covered, but you're saying that section is, if you remember the conference room above here, over on that side, I think that's where it's leaking now, and I think that they had gotten two appraisals or something like $30-something thousand.
Yeah, 2 quotes, and I think that the, so far it's going to cost us in the neighborhood of about $30,000 to do the repairs. to the
Right.
roof. With this being a much older building, it's just a process of wear and tear, and although we replaced some of the roof, and I think a great
The old portion of the
old
building.
portion of the roof, this part is now starting to see the results of wear and tear. So once we get all of the estimates available, we'll submit that information to the board for approval and, move forward to the next phase of happening, because it's actually leaking.
The Windows update, I said replace it would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000. I have 20,000 on here.
Remember we talked about the aesthetics of making sure that the windows match the current aesthetic of the building.
Yes.
For the historical building, which you brought to our attention.
Right.
And I thought that number was somewhere around $100,000, and that we were looking and could possibly receive a grant to support our work to replace these. Maybe, did you recall the conversation?
Yes, we are preparing quotes around the strategic plan of projects that we want to work on next year. So we're getting numbers. The numbers were closer to 200,000. We did submit a grant to an organization, Anderson Windows. We were a finalist for that grant before COVID-19 kicked in. Then during COVID, their foundation folded. They communicated back to us. They will keep us in consideration as they repurpose their organization. They were going to give us the funds for the windows, and we would just have to pay for the labor. So that's what we submitted. We will be resubmitting that proposal again sometime during next year.
If,
Energy efficient windows.
I don't have all the details around the specification of those windows, but I can pull the grant and get that information.
is the grant, speaking of, was that the grant for $75,000?
No.
Do you know what that grant is? I know some of a grant, I have grant down here, a grant for $75,000 have been, I guess for air qualities and face masks and sanitation and hot spots and all that
I
stuff.
think that was a combination of the grants, the COVID grants that we received, one for OLC. We had discussed those.
That was a separate thing. It wasn't really pertaining to buildings and grounds. It was more so for that equipment.
Okay. I guess that's, the marquee. That was discussed, and because I think it plays a pivotal role for us as far as the activities that we have here and the programs, what have you, that could be advertised on our marquee, and it's my understanding that they still checking to find a marquee that will accommodate the things that we would like to see posted out there, as well as programs that that is taking place here in the library. Sure.
Yeah, part of the discussion during our Buildings and Grounds meeting was that Mr. Cooper was taking a look with companies that have done other marquees, and a few that I noticed, one at Shaw High School, Southie Public Library, Beechwood Public Library, were marquees that we've seen around. And I encouraged Mr. Cooper to locate the companies that install those marquees to see if we can get an estimate, to take a look. First, we have to do a design based on the way that our building is laid out, and then have those proposals presented to the board so that we can select what we think is best for us, and then we can go forward from there. But I want to take this moment too to say, to give a special thanks to Mr. Cooper, because dealing with this older building and the things that he's actually been able to do to save us money in this library, like painting and maintenance things that he's done, has been an outstanding job in the year of 2020. And I want to thank, I just wanted to go on the record to thank him, because I know he's had challenges that he never expected, and also too trying to wrap his head around a new way of doing things, because since the director has been installed, he does do things differently than the prior administration, and that takes some getting used to. But overall, the reason why our lights and everything work the way they do, the heating is functioning the way that it does and the way it's supposed to do, and even the investment that we made into this building in a large way had a lot to do with Mr. Cooper's shepherding that process through. And I just want to make sure I go on the record to say thank you.
And the last thing is the painting, which you alluded to in your comments. Mr. Latimer can identify the rooms that has been painted. Mr. Latimer, could you tell us what area that has been painted?
If you look on the screen earlier, we started painting, well, we completed painting in the team space and the reference space, and we added additional computers. We changed out some of the aesthetics, the ceiling. We will hope to change out the carpeting next year. That's one of the projects we'll be presenting to the board as we prioritize all of the things that we want to do, and hopefully we have a window of 3 years within this current strategic plan that we can get all these projects accomplished.
Okay, thank you. And if there's any questions, or if not, Mr. Chairman,
I just had a statement I wanted to make in terms of some of the capital outlay projects you're doing. I think if you hadn't already, I think it would be a good opportunity to reach out to the Carnegie Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundations, since those two entities were instrumental in funding the creation of the East Cleveland Public Library. I think we have some track record and some history that we could go back to these institutions and say, hey, how about making another investment into the library? So you may want to look at some opportunities where we can approach them on some of the things, whether it be some of these building projects or programming, to see if there's an opportunity to update that relationship and kind of expand upon those from our beginning.
Take a look at that.
Okay, nothing else, Mr. Chairman. The Buildings and Grounds report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Next item on the agenda will be library services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mary Ann Harris, the Library Services Committee, met in attendance on December 17th at 2:00 p.m. was Mrs. The co-chair, Mrs. Sharpley, and staff was the executive director, Mr. Latimer, Mr. Turner, executive assistant, Mr. Coxfield, and then the officer. And I think we had a guest or two. Mr. Rashid, president, was a guest, and Mr. O'Mays was the audience. I'm sorry, audience participation. Were you, believe? No, Mr. O'Mays was not audience participation. Basically, there's no formal report for the Library Services Committee today, no resolutions, and the services, the director announced various services that are ongoing. There's supposed to be a special Kwanzaa service programming during December 26th through the 26th through January 1st, introducing the Kwanzaa principles to the community, awareness, the 7 principles, Umoja, Kusha Chakalia, Ujima, Ujama, Nia, Kumba, and Imani. The 7 principles will be introduced on one each day that they represent. And I think the president, Mr. Rashid, made mention that we would like to bring it to the board for further discussion. So here we are.
Is there further discussion with,
Well, from library services, thing, since you're so knowledgeable around Kwanzaa, let's get Dr. Harris a hand. She will be part of the work. We're very excited about that, so you are now part of our social media. Subscribe to us on YouTube and friend us on Facebook, and you can see Dr. Harris at work.
Oh, I haven't seen it myself. So are there questions or comments with other board members? It's open for discussion. 7 principals, 7 board members.
That sounds good, yeah.
okay, hearing none? Does that conclude your report, Dr. Harris?
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. Next item on the agenda, new business.
Mr. Chairman, I have some new business, and that is in resolutions that we write, it has no sponsor on the resolution. Just a blank piece of paper with, not a blank piece of paper, but it's just, it doesn't have who's sponsoring it. All resolutions should have a sponsor. And a preamble, who's sponsoring it. Just like, otherwise I won't call any names, that way we won't say I'm picking on anyone. All resolution that is passed should have a sponsor. And who's sponsoring that resolution. And the committee is that's not a person. It has to be, like, for example, like since you asked that question, you had a resolution too. You would say, the resolution is sponsored by Mrs. Shahid. That's who the resolution, if anyone pick it up, they'll say, well, who's the sponsor? Oh, Mrs. Shahid. And did it pass? Yes, because you got the numbers, the names and stuff in here. That part is correct. But all resolution that's passed should have a sponsor.
Is this a new
No,
strategy?
no, it's not new.
Because I've been here only a couple of years and I've never seen a person sponsor a resolution. It was always proposed from the committee, and that was it. I've never seen an individual, the years I've been here, sponsor a resolution. So
It
is
could
this
be-
something new?
Yeah, there has been some passed because I've written every resolution that I've written has sponsor on there, and it's co-sponsored by whoever you want to put on the committee, your committee. That's where you have your co-sponsors on there. You're gonna put that on there, sponsored by Mrs. Shahid and whomever's on your committee, co-sponsored by, et cetera.
I would like to input in here because it says at the top of the page, members of the personnel committee have met, discussed, and reviewed the following items and recommend approval to the library board of trustees.
But that doesn't have a name.
It does, it says to me that the personnel committee
Personnel is a,
asking this approval.
that's an
to the library
adjective.
board of trustees.
That is an adjective, that's not a name.
But I mean, there's nothing in our particular rules as being the board of the student of the library that says we have to have it done that way. We've been currently doing it this way.
Right.
Is this illegal by doing it this way?
In a way it is, because you don't have no sponsor on here. A committee is not a person. Every resolution that is passed, and we've had this discussion before, every resolution that is passed should have a sponsor. Somebody has to sponsor it and bring it, because the committee can't bring it to the committee and speak. Committee is a position in which we hold.
But it says the members of the personnel committee have met, discussed, and reviewed.
And who are they?
items,
Who are they?
There's Ms. Shahid.
But we know that, we know that. But if this resolution someone coming and pick up this resolution, it doesn't tell them nothing. The only thing it tells them, there was some action on here, it was a vote in the back where people voted on it. Who were those? Who is the committee? Who sponsored this?
Yes, Ms. McDonald?
Okay, so when we're looking at these resolutions by way of either being with the board or looking at this as some type of administrative coding, are we considering this resolution as actual legislation to say that there should be a co-sponsor and a sponsor, or are we looking at it prima facie on its face that this is an agenda item for a resolution to be passed by the committee?
Thank you.
The latter of what you just said is my view.
Okay, so if it's the latter, then there is no need for a sponsor or a co-sponsor. If you're looking at it, yeah, as the latter.
Resolutions we passed properly before this is incorrect.
Yeah,
No, what I'm saying is that this must be correct because I've never seen a sponsor before and it's been done.
And with her, excuse me one moment, Mr. Cochran, I will call you, but from what Ms. McDonald just explained to us from a legal standpoint, I think the latter is what we are trying to accomplish as a board, is that the board supports this, has been brought forward by the committee, and for the board to decide to approve it, so it's a board function. And would you explain that one more time, Ms. McDonald? I'm sorry, because I can hardly hear you.
So on most, if you're looking at this as a matter of legislation for a resolution, then you would need a co-sponsor and a sponsor for that particular item.
that's
But
correct.
if you're looking at it as a ladder from a committee being the individuals collectively who put this matter into place prima facie, then the latter would go with what you said.
And that's
So
where we
it's
have been
determined
handling our
by how
resolutions
you're
up to this day.
addressing it. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So in essence, you're saying if you sponsored in terms of a legislative.
Then you would need
Then
a,
it's needed.
then
Now,
it's
the
needed.
legislative factor, then you don't.
Okay. Well, we've been doing it this way,
You've
and
been doing it wrong.
no, it's because she just explained there are two different reasons why you would do it.
So it just depends on how we're viewing.
You know,
Our
we
document.
can't, we're not viewing it as legislation, so.
Right,
It has to be legislative.
right.
And this
If
is
you're
not
not doing it
legislation,
this
this is a resolution that the board is enacting. So you're right, if it was legislation, which would be the case if we were like a city council or something like that. But being a resolution or taking.
Resolution is a legislation or what have you. You could do resolution, ordinance. They all, it's the same identical thing. You're writing up a resolution.
But that's the function of a municipal board, a municipality. And
So can I say one more thing?
Even the school board,
Can
at
I
the
say
school-
one more thing? So like he's gonna get to, with the Ohio Revised Codes, there's a section 3754 something that directly puts out the provisions for how the board is supposed to operate, right? So that's a legislative act, because it tells you what you're supposed to do. Now, when it comes down to our agenda and how we're holding our meetings and the committee, where do you find that in the code? Now, if that was part of that, as far as when you adopt the resolution, then it would be found in that, then I can see exactly what he's talking about. But until we, I think, to settle it, until there's language found, and it's been done like this, I would suggest it's like this until we can see if there's actually a piece, because I can understand what he's saying, because it's part of legislation as well, when it comes to the forming of the board. So until we can find the exact language, then I think I can look for it and see what I can find.
And we have an attorney who, when we have these type of issues, we can bring it up to him, say you can work and just ask him
Yeah.
to look it up for us. So Mr. Mayor, would you like to contact our attorney and make sure you get clarification on this?
I have no problem.
Thank you. So, Mr. Coffey, you want the floor?
No, I don't, I'll retract I'll retract my comment. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can comment on is the fact that in the number of audits that I've sat in on or participated in, the auditors have never questioned anybody sponsoring the resolutions. They're simply looking at the content of the resolution itself and whether or not the library or the board is enacting whatever has been resolved.
Well, I would take that as being an indicator that we're doing okay, and it's not broke, I don't want to fix it.
It's broke.
I have a question. Can you, if you vote on a resolution, can you undo a resolution?
Amended.
You have to amend it,
You can amend it.
and you can withdraw it,
Can you?
yes.
Yes.
It's the same function as a ordinance or whatever you want to call it. The resolution, have passed resolution, and they do have sponsors.
Mr. Coffey, do you have an additional comment?
No.
Are there any other discussion on
Mary Ann Harris.
any other old or new business to say?
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment. In a review of looking at other public libraries in this Cuyahoga County area, the state of Ohio, we'll find that the resolutions are generally as we are presenting our resolutions. And I've looked at that.
I've seen them, and they do have
From the Board
sponsors
of
on, and even of school.
Library Public Board of Trustees.
Okay. Thank you for the additional input.
Mhm.
Is there any new business to be put before the floor, on the floor,
Anymore.
before the board? We move on now to old business. Hearing none. On to audience participation.
We have 3 comments from Ray Rice. Says Mr. Proctor did a great financial report. Provide more, did a great interview report, and she also wanted to let me know that Dr. Una H.R. Keenan is also watching this meeting along with.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All right.
Hey,
That was the path that we all taken to get on this board. Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so that's the audience participation, so at this point, we move to adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board meeting be adjourned at 8:23 p.m.
I have a second.
Second. We got to vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Rashid?
Yes.
Mr. Bates?
Yay.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Shadi? Ms. Sharpley?
Yes.
Mr. Silvera?
Yes.
Ms. McDonald?
Yes.
7 yes.
Well, that's the meeting of the Cleveland Public Library Board of Trustees meeting on Monday, December 21st. And now, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.